Captain Elias Grant was jolted awake by the insistent blare of alarms echoing through his quarters. His heart pounded in his chest as he quickly scanned the display on his wall, a proximity alert. Something had breached the ship's sensor net. He grabbed his uniform jacket, pulling it on as he hurried to the command deck of the Horizon. "Report," Grant demanded as he stepped onto the bridge, his voice cutting through the tension like a blade. The crew snapped to attention, eyes locked on the main display where a series of strange symbols flashed ominously. "Sir, we've picked up an unidentified signal," First Officer Jax replied, his fingers flying over the console. It's like nothing we've seen before. The origin is deep space, and it's coming from a derelict ship." Dr. Lila Vasquez, the ship's chief scientist, leaned closer to her monitor, her eyes gleaming with curiosity. "The signal isn't just a distress call," she murmured, almost to herself. "It's layered, complex. There's data embedded within it. If we could decode it." Grant's jaw tightened as he weighed the situation. The Horizon was humanity's top exploratory vessel, tasked with venturing into the unknown. Yet, every mission carried risks, and this signal felt like a whisper from the void, tempting, but dangerous. "Jax, can you get a visual?" Grant asked, his tone brooking no hesitation. A moment later, the screen flickered, revealing the hulking mass of a ship floating in the abyss. The alien vessel was massive, its structure a labyrinth of twisted metal and dark, jagged lines. It appeared ancient, yet there was something unsettlingly alive about it, a presence that made the hair on the back of Grant's neck stand on end. "There's no life support, no heat signatures," Jax reported. "But there's something. Energy readings are erratic, but they're there." Grant exhaled slowly. "We're going in. Prepare a boarding party." As they approached the alien ship, the tension in the air was palpable. The Horizon glided silently toward the derelict vessel, its lights casting eerie shadows across the cold metal hull. The boarding party, suited up and armed, made their way to the airlock. Grant led the way, his steps steady, but his mind raced with possibilities, both wondrous and terrifying. The inside of the alien ship was vast and cold, a maze of dark corridors illuminated only by the flickering lights of their helmets. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the faint hum of ancient machinery still struggling to function after what must have been centuries, if not millennia. The walls were lined with stasis pods, each containing a different alien species, all seemingly in suspended animation. "This place is a tomb," Jax muttered, his voice low, as if afraid to disturb the slumbering giants around them. Grant paused before a particularly large pod in the center of the room. Unlike the others, this one was surrounded by a strange, glowing script that seemed to pulse in time with an unseen rhythm. Inside, a tree-like creature stood tall, its branches curled protectively around its trunk. It was dormant, yet Grant could sense a latent power within it, a power that stirred something deep within him. "Captain, this could be a breakthrough," Vasquez whispered, awe in her voice. "We have to take it back with us. It could hold the key to understanding so much." Grant hesitated, his instincts warning him to be cautious. But the pull of discovery was too strong. "All right," he said finally. "But we're taking every precaution. I want it secured and isolated in the lab." As they began the delicate process of transferring the pod to the Horizon, Grant couldn't shake the feeling that they were tampering with forces beyond their understanding. But the decision was made, and there was no turning back. The Horizon set course for home, the alien ship left drifting in the darkness behind them. Unbeknownst to the crew, the glowing symbols on the pod dimmed, then flared one final time as something ancient and powerful began to awaken. The air aboard the Horizon felt charged, as if the ship itself held its breath. Captain Elias Grant stood at the entrance to the lab, his eyes locked on the containment pod now bathed in a soft, pulsating light. The alien tree-like creature, nicknamed Sprout by the crew, remained motionless inside, its branches coiled tightly around its trunk. Yet, there was an undeniable shift in the atmosphere, a sense that something was about to happen. "Anything new?" Grant asked, breaking the heavy silence. Dr. Lila Vasquez looked up from her console, her face illuminated by the glow of the monitors. "Its energy readings are increasing, but it's stable," she replied. "It's almost as if it's waking up." Grant frowned, a knot of unease tightening in his chest. He knew this mission was a gamble, but the potential rewards were too great to ignore. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were treading dangerous ground. "Keep monitoring it closely. If there's even a hint of instability, I want that thing locked down." Suddenly, the lights in the lab flickered, and the ship's systems shuddered. The crew exchanged uneasy glances as the containment pod began to hum with energy. The once dormant creature slowly unfurled its branches, each movement deliberate, as if it were testing its newfound freedom. "It's responding to something," Vasquez whispered, her eyes wide with fascination. Before anyone could react, one of Sprout's tendrils reached out, extending toward Grant. The room tensed, weapons drawn, but Grant held up a hand, halting them. The tendril stopped just short of his chest, hovering in the air as if waiting for permission. Grant swallowed hard, his pulse quickening. He could feel a presence at the edge of his consciousness, a gentle probing, like a whisper on the wind. He didn't know how, but he understood that Sprout was trying to communicate, trying to connect. "It's not hostile," Grant said, his voice firm, though his heart raced. "Stand down." The tendril touched his chest lightly, and in an instant, Grant's mind was flooded with images, flashes of alien landscapes, star systems he couldn't name, and a sense of profound loneliness. He gasped, staggering back as the connection deepened, revealing a complex tapestry of emotions: fear, curiosity, hope. Sprout wasn't just a creature, it was a sentinel, the last of its kind, guarding knowledge that could change the fate of entire civilizations. It's sentient," Grant breathed, the enormity of the revelation washing over him. He could feel Sprout's intentions, its need to share its knowledge, its desperate desire for understanding, for connection. Dr. Vasquez watched, captivated. "Captain, this could be the breakthrough we've been searching for. It's not just an artifact, it's a living archive." But First Officer Jax wasn't convinced. "Captain, this thing is dangerous. We don't know what it's capable of. We're risking everything by keeping it aboard." Grant met Jax's gaze, the weight of leadership pressing on his shoulders. He knew Jax had a point. This was uncharted territory, and the stakes were high. But the connection he felt with Sprout was undeniable, and he couldn't ignore the potential it held. "We proceed with caution," Grant said finally, his voice steady. "But we proceed. This could be the key to unlocking secrets we've never dreamed of." As the Horizon continued its journey through the void, the bond between Captain Grant and Sprout grew stronger, both aware that they were bound by a fate neither fully understood. But as the connection deepened, so too did the danger, as forces beyond their comprehension stirred in the darkness, drawn to the awakening of an ancient power. The chapter closed with the hum of the containment pod and the silent promise of what was to come. The horizon was no longer just the endless black of space. Its hull became the guardian of a secret that could either save or doom them all. Captain Elias Grant stood at the observation deck, his gaze fixed on the swirling nebula in the distance. The connection with Sprout had left him restless, his mind constantly replaying the visions the creature had shown him. Despite the awe and wonder, an unease gnawed at him, a premonition of something lurking just beyond their grasp. "Captain, we're picking up an anomaly on long-range sensors." Jax's voice crackled through the intercom, cutting through Grant's thoughts. He hurried to the bridge, where the crew was already analyzing the data. The main screen displayed a massive energy fluctuation, its intensity growing with each passing second. "It's like nothing we've encountered before," Vasquez murmured, her eyes wide as she studied the readings. "It's not a natural phenomenon, it's being generated by something, or someone." Grant's gut tightened. "Could it be connected to Sprout?" Vasquez hesitated. "It's possible. The energy signatures are similar, but this is on a much larger scale. If it's connected, then whatever we've awakened, it's not just one entity, it's part of something far bigger." Before Grant could respond, the ship lurched violently, alarms blaring as the lights flickered. The energy surge had escalated, and the ship's systems were struggling to cope. "Shields are at maximum, but they won't hold for long, Jax reported, his tone grim. We need to get out of here, fast. Grant nodded, his mind racing. Helm, prepare for an emergency jump. Get us clear of this anomaly. As the crew scrambled to follow orders, Sprout's containment pod began to glow intensely. The alien script on its surface flared to life, pulsating in rhythm with the energy surge outside. Grant felt the connection with Sprout surge in his mind, a torrent of emotions and fragmented thoughts crashing over him. Fear, desperation, a warning. Captain, something's happening! Vasquez shouted, pointing at the pod. Sprout's branches unfurled within the containment field, stretching toward the ship's systems as if trying to interface with them. The pod's glow intensified, casting long shadows across the lab. Grant could feel Sprout's presence more acutely than ever, its thoughts merging with his own. We're out of time, Grant muttered, realizing the full extent of the situation. Sprout wasn't just a relic of the past, it was the key to something ancient, something that was now waking up with a vengeance. The ship's engines roared to life, preparing for the jump, but before they could initiate, the anomaly's energy spiked. The horizon was enveloped in a blinding light as space itself seemed to twist and fold around them. For a brief moment, everything was silent, then reality snapped back into place, and the ship hurtled out of the anomaly's reach. The bridge was deathly quiet as the crew processed what had just happened. The main screen flickered back to life, showing the anomaly shrinking rapidly, as if retreating into itself. We're clear, Jax announced, though his voice was tinged with disbelief. But what in the hell was that? Grant's gaze drifted to Sprout's pod, now dim and quiet once more. The visions had stopped, but the echo of Sprout's warning still resonated in his mind. Whatever they had encountered, it was a prelude to something far greater, a threat that spanned the cosmos and was now aware of humanity's presence. We've stirred the hornet's nest, Grant said quietly, a deep sense of foreboding settling over him. And whatever's out there, it's coming for us. The crew exchanged uneasy looks, the gravity of the situation sinking in. They had ventured into the unknown, and in doing so, they had awakened something that would not rest until it found them. As the chapter drew to a close, the horizon continued its journey, the crew unaware that their actions had set in motion a chain of events that would shape the future of humanity, and the fate of the galaxy itself. The silence of space was now pregnant with the promise of conflict, and the first echoes of a war unlike any other began to ripple through the void. The tension on the horizon was palpable as the crew prepared for the inevitable. Captain Elias Grant paced the bridge, his thoughts racing. The anomaly had been more than just a disturbance. It was a signal, a beacon that had reached across the stars. They had awakened something ancient and powerful, and it was now coming for them. The hum of the ship's engines thrummed beneath his feet, a constant reminder of the thin line between life and the vast, unforgiving void of space. Captain, we're detecting multiple contacts on the long-range sensors, Jax reported, his voice steady but laced with concern. They're closing in fast. Grant's heart pounded. How many? Too many, Jax replied, his expression grim. We're outnumbered 10-1, at least. The weight of the situation settled heavily on Grant's shoulders. They were deep in uncharted space, with no reinforcements, no allies. The odds were overwhelming, but retreat was not an option. Whatever was out there, humanity's future depended on their response. Dr. Vasquez? Grant called out, his voice cutting through the tense silence. What's the status on Sprout? Vasquez's fingers flew over the console as she checked the containment pod. It's stable, but the energy readings are off the charts. It's almost as if it's drawing power from the surrounding space. Grant frowned, a thought forming in the back of his mind. Could it be communicating with them? Vasquez hesitated, then nodded. It's possible. If Sprout is connected to these entities, it could be acting as a conduit. Grant stared at the pulsing light of the pod, the realization hitting him like a punch to the gut. Sprout was not just a survivor, it was a harbinger, a living key to a long-forgotten network. The entities they had attracted were ancient guardians, awakened by the disturbance in the cosmic order. But there was something else, Sprout's connection to Grant, the bond they had forged. Could that be their way out? Open a channel, Grant ordered, his voice firm. The crew exchanged confused glances, but Jax complied, opening a broad-spectrum communication channel. The ship's systems hummed with energy as the signal was sent out, a lone voice in the void. "This is Captain Elias Grant of the Starship Horizon," he began, his tone steady despite the tension. "We mean no harm. We are explorers, seeking knowledge and understanding. If we have trespassed, we ask for your mercy." For a moment, there was only silence, the vast emptiness of space pressing in on them. Then, the ship's lights flickered, and Sprout's pod began to glow brighter. Grant felt the connection surge, a flood of emotions and images flashing through his mind: an ancient war, worlds consumed by fire, the last stand of a civilization that had once spanned the stars. And then, a single word, clear and resonant, echoed in his thoughts: peace. The alien fleet, once bearing down on them, halted. The energy readings stabilized, and the threat level dropped as the entities slowly began to retreat, their presence diminishing with each passing second. The crew watched in stunned silence as the monitors cleared, showing nothing but the endless expanse of space once more. Grant let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. "Stand down," he ordered softly, the tension easing from his body. "We're safe, for now." Vasquez approached, her eyes wide with awe. "Captain, what just happened?" Grant turned to the glowing pod, a sense of profound relief and gratitude washing over him. "We showed them that we're not a threat. That we seek peace, not conflict." "But what about Sprout?" Jax asked, his brow furrowed. "Is it still dangerous?" Grant shook his head, feeling the warmth of the connection in his mind. "No. Sprout isn't a weapon, it's a bridge. A link between us and something far greater." The crew slowly relaxed, the reality of their survival sinking in. They had come face to face with an ancient power and lived to tell the tale. But more than that, they had forged a connection that could reshape the future of humanity. As the horizon resumed its course, the stars once again became their only companions. The crew knew they had crossed a threshold, stepping into a larger, more complex galaxy. And as they ventured onward, the echoes of their encounter lingered, a reminder of the fragile balance between exploration and survival. The chapter ended with a sense of quiet resolution, the vastness of space a silent witness to their journey. The future was uncertain, but the crew of the Horizon had proven that, even in the face of overwhelming odds, humanity could reach out into the unknown and find common ground, even with the most alien of beings.